So I'm sure you guys have seen the map that recently released called Epitaph, which is basically a Flow Aim stream map that a lot of people seem to be in like 600s and 700s and 1Ks on fucking hard rock. Like 4 digits and 5 digits are getting 700s and shit on this. Like, it's fucking crazy, right? And this map, it kind of raises a question if Flow Aim is overweighted right now, because there seems to be a lot of like murmuring here and there in this conversation about Epitaph being super overweighted, where also it could be that Flow Aim in general is also overweighted. But in my opinion, I don't think it's Flow Aim that's the problem here. I think it's the maps that happen to have Flow Aim, like Epitaph, which contribute to a problem where it seems that Flow Aim is overweighted. And it's mainly because if you look at the maps like Epitaph and like Sidetrack Day, for example, these are maps with inconsistent difficulty where they have really hard diff spikes in like really short sections of the map, but the rest of the map is just piss low. And these maps also get benefited from length bonus, which is basically where the longer the map is, the more PP it would give you. And these factors jack up the amount of PP those maps give, like Sidetrack Day and Epitaph, even though they probably don't deserve that much PP. You know, the length bonus part, I feel like it's okay to keep it there, because, you know, it's still hard to like FC like longer maps, like in terms of nerve control, because that's a skill set that is also something to be mastered. But I just think that the inconsistent difficulty part in maps like Epitaph and Sidetrack Day are what contribute to jacking the star rating. Because another example is where if you compare Epitaph, which is 7.8 stars, to another stream map called Reason, which is 7.83 stars, these maps are basically stream maps as well. Although they're like the same star rating, Reason's like 10 times fucking harder. And it's because Reason is just consistently difficult throughout. Maybe it gets like a little harder throughout the map, but I just think Reason compared to Epitaph is way fucking harder. But even despite that, they give the same amount of PP, which is probably not fair. In my opinion, I feel like Epitaph should probably give like low 600 for an SS instead of like an 800. Maybe that's too much of a nerf, but like, I don't know, those like diff spikes are hard, right? But they're only for like a couple combo in comparison to other parts of the map. So that's kind of why I think Flow Aim isn't overweighted right now. Like, streams aren't the problem, it's just the maps that happen to have Flow Aim, like Epitaph and Sidetrack Day. And in the upcoming PP work, it seems like they are gonna like fix that shit a bit, like address those issues. But I feel like one of my problems with it is that it also nerfs stream maps in general, because Flow Aim isn't something that's overweighted. Because if you look at maps like Juvenile, for example, these maps are not inconsistently difficult, they're consistently difficult throughout, but they get nerfed as well, which I think is unfair, because those maps are pretty difficult for their star rating. It's just that compared to like Sidetrack Day and shit, it's just not inconsistent difficulty where it has like these huge diff spikes. They're just hard throughout, you know. And I just think it's unfair. They should just keep the consistent difficulty stream maps like pretty much the same, maybe even buff them, and then the inconsistent difficulty maps like Epitaph, Sidetrack Day, nerf them definitely. But that's kind of just my opinion on it. But I also thought like another solution to like overweighted maps in general. So I was kind of thinking this earlier when I was like working today at my job, and I was kind of thinking perhaps if we just scrapped the PP system overall and just had like a PP normalization system. I mean, not PP, but like your rank. So your rank is normalized in comparison to other people instead of like PP. But I guess PP already kind of does that inherently. But I feel like this will be a solution, but I don't really know how you would implement that, because I'm not really a statistics type of guy. But I kind of thought of like a way that would nudge it to the right direction to address overweighted maps. So overweighted maps are particularly maps that a lot of people FC, right? And I was kind of thinking, what if the amount of PP that a map gives you is also based off your leaderboard ranking on the map? So that would basically reward like maps that are really difficult and have really niche skill sets, and the people that claim those leaderboard positions are going to get a lot more PP compared to other people, and that would kind of reward those like niche, like harder skill sets. And of course these would be grouped for like mod combinations and shit, maybe, and also grouped for like the difficulty mods, like hard rock and hidden hard rock will be in like the same sort of group, I suppose, and hidden and nomad will also be in the same sort of group, just so that, or I guess not in the same group, so like within their own groups, like hidden group and then nomad group, and because like some difficulty multipliers are just like overarching some other mods, like hidden over nomad. So like that could like be something to help out with the leaderboard sniping type of shit. I feel like that's one way to like help to address the overweighted nature of some maps where a lot of people just FC them. Of course, it's a change that a lot of people will probably be pissed with, because that also means that if you get sniped on a map, you will get rewarded with less PP. Like it changes on your profile, so you lose PP if you get sniped on that. But I feel like that would be pretty interesting, because maps with like that, because that would also promote playing maps that are like not necessarily known a lot, and maps, and it also like help the smaller mappers with not a lot of like leaderboard plays on them. So I feel like that would help those, that small minority. I don't know, that's just like kind of something I thought of. I don't actually know if it would work, but I just thought it would be kind of interesting if Peppy like added that into like laser maybe. But besides that, I kind of want to go on a tangent with Flow Aim. So Flow Aim overweightedness, if you look at No Mod and Hard Rock, they're probably overweighted right now for Epitaph and Sidetrack Day in particular, but not really for Flow Aim maps in general. Like Epitaph giving 1k for Hard Rock is just absurd, right? It's not exactly as hard as fucking Sunglow on DT, right? Like it's not exactly like the hardest map, but in the fact that it gives 1k is kind of absurd. But what about Hidden? So me personally, when I play Osu, I fucking play a lot of Hidden, and I play streams on Hidden. And I kind of got to a point where my hidden skill is pretty much equal to my nomad skill, and that is pretty good sometimes, like tourneys, I guess. But on hidden streams, I used to think hidden streams were preference, but after playing it for a bit more, hidden is just way fucking harder for streams, dude. Like I finally just came to that conclusion, because every time I fucking play hidden on streams compared to nomad, I always get way more misses and shit. Because if you fuck up reading like one section of a stream, you're doomed, you're dead, you lose so many freaking combo and misses, it's just so doomed. But if you're on like nomad, you can actually see the circles, you can actually correct your aim and shit, and maybe instead of missing like 10 times, you actually get like 50s and 100s, and but you still keep your combo, which is like the cool part. And I really think that hidden right now, like I think the 10% bonus PP for like hidden streams is pretty acceptable. Maybe if they buff that a bit to like 15%, but I feel like if they would punish you less for like the amount of misses you get on a hidden for streams, I feel like that would be cool. Because I don't know, that's kind of biased on my part, because I fuck up misses on streams all the fucking time, but I get like really good at because I can play streams on hidden like very well rhythmically. Like aiming wise, it's pretty difficult. But I don't know, that's kind of biased on my part. Maybe they just punish you less for hidden. But besides that tangent, I also kind of want to address scenario where you have flow aim versus jumps. So which skill set should give more PP in general? Because if you look at both skill sets, 300 PP on a flow aim and 300 PP on a jumps, they're not exactly like the same in terms of difficulty. I feel like jumps right now are a little underweighted compared to streams, because streams, as we said before, are kind of overweighted right now, but just for like specific maps because of length bonus and its inconsistent difficulty. But jumps also have the inconsistent difficulty things where like short maps and short DT jump maps like jack up the star rating of it just because of like a really hard part at the end, and that's why it gives so much PP. Like of course they suffer through the same problem with the inconsistent difficulty. But another thing, but should one of these skill sets give more PP than the other? Well, I kind of just want to address how the fuck like people would get introduced to these skill sets. So streams, for example, flow aim is pretty hard to get into because of like the streaming and shit. Like you would suffer a lot with your tapping, but the aiming part of it is pretty easy to do, while jumps on the other hand are pretty easy to get to. You just fucking aim and shit, and the tapping is pretty simple, right? But eventually for veterans, the aiming is still pretty easy for aim players, but for streams it removes the difficulty overall with the tapping, because eventually you get to a point where your tapping just is just a metronome when you play streams enough, and all you got to do is worry about the aim. That kind of leaves the issue, like the tapping issue is basically solved at that point, and now you're kind of just thinking about the aiming stuff like of jumps versus streams. Well, in terms of energy expenditure, I'm working on a video right now called how many calories you burn from playing Osu, and I basically calculate the amount of calories you burn from playing specific skill sets like jumps or streams, and my conclusions, like from my calculations, was that it seems that streams burn the least calories, which is pretty surprising. Like you would think that if you're tapping so much on it, it's probably going to burn a lot of calories, but that's not exactly the case. The skill set that actually burns the most calories from what I saw is jumps, which is kind of funny, right? But streams actually are the laziest skill set in terms of aim. You move the least pixels of your cursor on the fucking screen for a given session time, which is kind of crazy. You know, you don't really move a lot in terms of the aim part, which means that in terms of energy expenditure, jumps are a lot higher. Like jumps in terms of aiming wise is like 2 times the amount of pixels you travel. I forgot how much, but it's just craziness, right? So at that point, for veteran players, it seems like jump players have to suffer a lot more like aiming wise. Like if you just get rid of the tapping part completely, because tapping is just, it's very easy for veteran players, and then tapping is just really easy for jumps in general. So it seems like aim for harder maps for jump players are just, it's just a lot more energy expenditure to do it, right? So that would give the logical reason for you to buff jump maps in comparison to stream maps, which honestly I kind of agree with that, because I feel like jump maps right now are pretty underrated, but maybe if they get buffed, maybe like a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like it's also not really fair to compare them because they're just such different skill sets right now. It seems that right now Flow Aim maps, in terms of like how much overall PP you get from a map, give a lot more than jumps. And that's because of the length bonus and inconsistent difficulty stuff, as we said earlier. And it's mainly because of the length bonus, because jumps also go through inconsistent difficulty for like the shorter maps. But the length bonus in stream maps is pretty significant, because stream maps are pretty much very long in general compared to jump maps, because jump maps are just like 1 to 3 minutes long in general, because they're just based off like J-pop songs and anime songs and shit, while streams is like based off metal, which happen to be longer, and those longer maps are going to give a lot more length bonus. So I guess that's another factor where Flow Aim just gives a lot more PP. But I don't know, but I feel like two solutions you can have to this to balance out like Flow Aim and streams. As a result, maybe you can like reduce the length bonus for Flow Aim right now, like just for maps in general, reduce the length bonus. Or you could also just buff jumps to like make it match the amount of PP you get from Flow Aim. But it's also a bit difficult to do that because there's just a lot more farm maps and jumps in general compared to Flow Aim. So perhaps that just vast majority of farm maps and jumps compared to Flow Aim can contribute to like having an amount of equal PP. Like if you get like a 9,000 PP player of jumps versus 9,000 PP player of streams, the stream player is probably going to have a higher top play, but he's going to have like a lot less like top plays in his top plays, if that makes sense. Well, jump players are going to have a lot more 400s, I suppose. But that's kind of like my comparison between Flow Aim and jumps. I don't know. I'm just kind of like yapping about a bunch of Flow Aim shit about like what I was thinking about recently. And I kind of just want to make a video about it. And in conclusion, if you just wanted to skip to this ending part, I don't think Flow Aim is overweighted. It's just these maps like Epitaph, Sidetrack Days. Those are the problem, not fucking streams, okay? Leave my streams alone. All right, see ya.